There are letters written in love. There are letters written in sorrow. And then there is this one. A letter that witnesses claim came from the other side of death. It was discovered among the belongings of a German nun in the 1950s. Its message was so dark and so disturbingly real that the local bishop gave permission for it to be published, calling it highly instructive for souls. Inside those pages was the voice of a woman who had died suddenly. A woman who claimed to be writing from hell itself. Her name was Annie. And what she revealed in that letter would shake even the most skeptical heart. Before we begin, if you believe stories like this should never be forgotten, subscribe to the Stigmata channel. Here, we share true accounts, miracles, and mysteries that reach beyond this world. Now listen carefully, because once you hear this letter, you will never think of eternity the same way again. During the mid-20th century, in a quiet German convent, a nun passed away. Among her belongings, the sisters found an old, yellowed letter written with a trembling hand. There was no signature, but its contents were so terrifying and so detailed that the church later approved it as spiritually instructive. The document became known as the Letter from Beyond. The nun who found it explained that it came to her through a dream. In the dream, she saw her old friend Annie, who had died years earlier in a car accident. Annie appeared before her, pale, tormented, and handed her a bundle of pages. When the nun awoke, the pages were beside her bed, exactly as she had seen them. The letter began with a single dreadful sentence. "Clara, do not pray for me. I am condemned." From there, the letter unfolds like a testimony from the depths of eternity. The confession of a soul forever separated from God. Annie explains that she and Clara once worked together in the same office. They were friendly, though not very close. When Annie later married, they lost contact. She died suddenly in 1937 in a car accident. Clara, hearing the news, was filled with sorrow. She attended Mass and offered Holy Communion for her friend's soul. But that night she could not sleep. She heard noises at her door. And in a dream, she saw the letter written in Annie's unmistakable handwriting. This is what it said. "Clara, do not pray for me. I am lost forever. If I reveal to you the details of my damnation, it is not out of friendship. Here we love no one. I tell you only because even evil is used by God to bring about good. I wish you were here with me, for here everyone thinks alike. Our will is frozen in hatred, hatred for all, and above all, hatred for God." Annie then describes her earthly life. Her parents had once been Catholic but slowly abandoned the faith. Her childhood was ordinary, no great crimes, no scandals. But there was no prayer, no Mass, no confession. Religion was distant, almost ridiculous. She writes, "My parents met at a dance. They married out of obligation. At their wedding, a few drops of holy water were all that was left of their faith. I never truly learned to pray. Words like grace, Mass, and church disgust me even to right now. We the damned hate everything that exists. We even envy nothingness, for we cannot cease to be." She describes the horror of existence after death, a state without sleep, without rest, without hope. We do not eat. We do not walk. We do not rest. We are chained in spirit, forced to confront every grace we rejected. Every memory burns like fire. We drink hatred as if it were water. Annie describes not ignorance of God, but deliberate rebellion. The blessed in heaven love him because they see his beauty. Souls on earth may love him freely, but we who have seen him as judge and rejected him, hate him forever. We cannot and will not change. Even lying is impossible. I must tell the truth even when I don't want to. I must swallow back the insults I long to scream. God shows mercy even to us, for he keeps us far from him. His nearness would be unbearable fire. Annie recalls a home with no prayer. A father who drank, a mother who worked endlessly. She remembers receiving First Communion lightly, as a simple formality. "My father only told me to make sure my dress was beautiful. Nothing else mattered." She mocks modern communion practices, claiming demons try to block grace from children. Her life became one of indifference, then rejection. She joined social clubs, stopped praying, and created her own religion. a comfortable belief in reincarnation, free of judgment or responsibility. I made a God who asked nothing of me, and who changed whenever I pleased. She replaced faith with fashion, travel, and entertainment. Her husband lived the same way. Outwardly, life was comfortable. Inside, she was never at peace. She mocked hell as a fairy tale. She even joked once by holding a match under a friend's nose saying, "That's how hell smells." But now she writes, "Here, no one extinguishes the fire. It does not burn the body, but the soul itself, and it never goes out. Hell's fire is real fire, not a metaphor. The torment is both physical and spiritual. We know we will never see God. That knowledge is torture. The more truth a person received in life, the greater the pain in hell. Catholics suffer most," she says. Not unfairly, but because they were given more grace and rejected it. She admits she knew exactly where she was heading. She felt one final call from God before dying, and refused it. On the day of her death, she and her husband went for a drive. A blinding light from another car caused them to lose control. The crash came instantly. She cried out, not in prayer, but in fear. Then everything went dark. I awoke in a piercing light. My whole life was before me. Every rejected grace. It was like standing before the victim I had murdered. Only the victim was myself. But remorse never came. Only hatred. Then she fled. As Cain fled from Abel. That was her judgment. Depart from me. She fell into the eternal fire. When Clara finished reading the letter's last line, the paper turned to ashes in her hands. At that same moment, the bells of the nearby church began to ring. The Angelus, the morning prayer rising toward heaven as if answering the cry of despair she had just read. Clara fell to her knees and prayed. And in that silence, she understood. Mercy is real, but only while we are alive to seek it. That is the meaning of the letter from beyond. It is not simply a frightening tale. It is a warning wrapped in mercy. What Annie lost, we can still find. So how do we avoid her fate? How do we keep our souls from falling asleep as hers did? It begins with prayer. Not just words, but meditative prayer. Every day, spend time alone with God. Set aside 30 minutes to meditate on a gospel passage. For the first 15 minutes, memorize the words. Let every sentence take root. Then, for the next 15 minutes, ask, what is happening here? What is God saying to me? What truth is hidden in these words? This kind of meditation transforms the soul. Above all, pray the rosary. Our Lady at Fatima said it is the most powerful devotion. Through it, countless souls have been saved. Each night, examine your conscience. Review your thoughts, words, and actions. Ask forgiveness where you have fallen. Give thanks where you have loved. Go to confession often. Receive the Eucharist frequently, as St. Pius X taught. Because grace grows in the soul that hungers for it. The letter from beyond is not unique. It echoes teachings defended by saints and the Church for centuries. One of the clearest voices is Monsignor Luigi Gaston de Segur, author of Hell, What It Is and How We May Avoid It. Pope Pius IX personally praised this book, calling it a work that penetrates hearts and leads souls back to salvation. Monsignor de Segur says the tragedy of our time is not that people sin, but that people no longer believe in sin at all. He writes, "Those who laugh at hell are often the ones who fear it most. The essence of hell," he explains, is separation from God. To be cut off from the one who is love. That is the real torment. The fire symbolizes the soul's inner truth. A conscience burning forever in the knowledge that it chose darkness over light. The road to damnation is not sudden. It is slow, comfortable, paved with excuses and forgotten prayers. But he offers hope. Anyone who sincerely thinks about eternity begins to turn toward God. Fear enlightened by truth becomes the first grace of conversion. To be saved, Monsignor de Segur gives a simple rule of life. Live in a state of grace. Go to confession frequently. Examine your conscience nightly. Begin and end each day with prayer. Stay close to the Eucharist. Pray the Rosary daily. Entrust your life to the Blessed Virgin Mary. He concludes with these words. Think often and seriously about hell, and you will go to heaven. The greatest missionary of heaven is hell. Remember, God does not want us to fear Him. He wants us to awaken. Fear is not meant to lead to despair, but to repentance. And repentance is the doorway to peace. If you watched until now, perhaps something in your heart knows this is true. Don't waste that grace. Start today with one prayer, one act of faith, one confession. For as Monsignor de Segur writes, heaven begins the moment the soul turns back to God. If this story touched you, share it and subscribe to the Stigmata channel. Not for numbers, but because the world must remember that eternity is real. And mercy is waiting.